And I appreciate that in people, you know. He and his partner.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and call to order the regular meeting of the City Council for July 1st, 2019. The first thing I would just note that the city attorney will not be present tonight. She's not available, and that was planned. And the next order of business is invocation and pledge of allegiance. The city clerk will be leading us in that.
Father God, I ask you to be with us tonight as we conduct the city's business. I ask that you be with our city leaders as they make decisions, and ask them to remember, Lord, that the decisions made are to be made for the benefit of the majority. We ask you to remind them to make decisions with integrity and honesty. We ask you this in your precious Son's name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the next order of business is special guests and announcements, which our first announcement is the Employee of the Month, Lisa Taylor, and this is for May. And so, Lisa, if you would please join me up here so I can read this proclamation. Join us up here and smile for everyone at home. This says, proclamation naming Lisa Taylor as the Mayor's Employee of the Month for May 2019 and declaring July 1st, 2019 as Lisa Taylor Day in the city of Maumelle. Whereas Lisa Taylor began her career with the City of Maumelle in August 2018 as an accounts payable coordinator, she has proven herself a valuable member of the finance department through her attention to detail, accuracy, planning, time management, and follow-up. Whereas through her attention to detail and tenacity, she not only found vendor overcharge errors on multiple accounts, but diligently worked to get the city credited, resulting in over $6,600 in vendor credits to city accounts on June 6, 2019. Whereas Lisa meticulously compiles all documentation required for audits, which involves daily coordination with the city directors and vendors to ensure that payments are for the correct and contracted amounts. Her work is clean, accurate, and precise, and she goes above and beyond in the performance of her duties and is, quote, the best accounts payable employee, end quote, the Director of Finance has worked with in her 30-plus year career. Now, therefore, I, Caleb Norris, Mayor of Maumelle, on this first day of July, do hereby declare Lisa Taylor to be the Mayor's Employee of the Month for May 2019, and hereby proclaim today, July 1st, 2019, to be Lisa Taylor Day in the city of Maumelle. Okay.
Good job.
Congratulations. You want to give a speech?
No.
Okay. Never know. And I'm pretty sure Lisa has been nominated just about every month, so that's not abnormal for her to be above normal. Whatever. Excellence. Next order of business is approval of the minutes of the June 17th regular meeting. You've received a copy of those minutes in your council packet. Council Member Mosley.
Find my microphone here. Yeah, I had a question on page 2 under ordinance 981, where it says Councilmember Mosley asked to the point or the half-cent sales tax goes directly into police and fire budgets. Mayor Norris said the money would go to anything that increases public safety. I don't know that's what we were talking about. I think I was asking if we were narrowing the scope of that money down to just police and fire, and I think you said yes. But so I guess if anything, we could just strike that. If
It was a direct quote. I looked at it myself,
did you really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
verbatim.
Okay. All right, well, we'll go with it.
Okay, were there any additional suggestions, edit changes? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Offered.
I've got a motion. Do I hear a second? And a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Next order of business is public comment. I don't have any public comment cards. Our financial statement review will be at the second meeting of the month, which brings us to our department reports for Parks and Recreation. Mr. Rayburn. You guys don't have anything abnormal going on this week in parks, do you?
This week's pretty quiet compared to the rest. Actually, I'm going to kind of just jump back to what we've done these last 6 months, which kind of went through my calendar and starting writing down the events that either we do or we help other associations conduct. And ended up with 28 special events. So that's averaging almost 5 events a month that we're either running or helping support. And it goes anywhere from a polar plunge to a daddy-daughter dance to a kayak demo that we just had a couple weekends ago. So we're staying busy with those events. We've also, in the past 6 months, 10 different sport leagues from baseball, softball, soccer, swim, all those organizations. Baseball just had a state tournament that we hosted here in Maumelle this past weekend, and it went very well. It was a 7-year-old state. So a lot of the little kids and a lot of parents, a lot of Northeast Arkansas teams came down, and so it was a good representation of what we have here in Maumelle throughout the state. Rentals that we've done the last 6 months, we've had 6 pool rentals, which we've basically only been open a month for there. We've had 45 rentals at the community center and 32 at our pavilion. So our pavilion at Lake Willistine is still being heavily utilized just about every weekend. More current is Park on the River. We've had, of course, you've seen all the pictures of the flooding. We weren't quite as lucky this time. Cleanup was a little more labor intensive because we had about 6, sometimes 8 inches of sand and silt that we've moved around. We were able to use it to fill in some holes that were made by going around the fences and those posts, and the fence is completely gone. We've got it out of the way. We did get the dock out. We still have to make some repairs to it. Once we get those repairs done, the river goes down, slows down a little bit, we'll be able to get it back in place. It shouldn't cost us very much money to get that redone and back out there. We did turn in a number to hopefully get some help with the sod, if we plan to go back with sod, and that was about $40,000. That's sod and having somebody else install it. It is something we can install, but if we can get that assistance, I would rather somebody else do it so we can stay ahead, because we have been behind pretty much all year because of the wet weather, and just now starting to get caught up, so that's a good thing. We've also, of course, we have Fourth Fest this week, so this will be a busy week, pretty much all out at Lake Willistine getting it ready for the Fourth Fest. And then we've had a garden camp, our summer camp program. We had a garden camp last week which the Master Gardeners helped with, and they had a good turnout. We've got a chef camp coming up, survivor camp, and a basketball camp that'll be going throughout the summer months. And looking ahead, we have, it was approved in the capital budget to do some more renovations at Lake Willistine. So that'll be something that we'll do, hopefully probably start end of August, that time frame on it. We are 1 staff person down from we have 1 operator 1 position that we're trying to fill currently, and we know we've got 1 gentleman leaving us that's also an operator 1 into July, so we're going to keep those apps going and hopefully get it filled and stay fully staffed. Other than that, I will answer any questions if you have anything.
Councilmember Saunders?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Rayburn, I was asked to say this, but I'll say it for me too.
Okay.
you and your crew did a great job with the garden club camp
Yes.
for the kids. That was quite an event. The kids really enjoyed it. A big part of that was because you and your staff.
Well, we partnered with the Master Gardeners, which I know you're very familiar with them, and that is one organization that we love having there because they make the community center out front look so much better than what we could do. So we help support them in any way possible, and we were very excited that they partnered with us last year and wanted to come back this year to do that camp.
Well, you sure made a lot of happy kids. I know that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, I went by actually Park on the River last night, and it does look more like a beach down there than it does a lawn anymore. And that was my first thought was, oh my God, all the grass is pretty much gone.
It's coming back in some places,
Is it?
but where it was deeper, covered in silt, it's going to be questionable.
I saw a big old huge stump that looked like water.
Yeah, that tree had actually we had blown over probably in the last year, and then the flooding we didn't lose any trees, but I guess it was about a week later we had some high winds that came through, and we lost like 3.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to ask you too about, we've got a group called Friends of Lake Willisteen. Have they been in touch with you? Do they stay in touch with you on things?
I haven't heard from them in a while. I know they're still out there. The lady, I can't think of her name. The lady that started the group had passed it on
To me,
to Marion.
and then I passed it on to Jen Bullington, Patty Whaley, and Susie Painter.
Right.
And I haven't heard anything since.
I haven't either, which I took that as a good thing.
Yeah, I would think that you would hear from them.
Well, and I have talked to Miss Bullington out at the park when we were doing some work, but she hasn't mentioned anything. But yeah, we still have some to-do lists out there. As we get caught up, we're going to continue taking out some of those weeds from the bank.
Do you ever have residents around that lake cutting brush behind their houses between them and the lake?
Yes.
I saw a lot the other day. It looked like maybe Roundup had been used and some stuff.
I haven't looked back there in a while, but I know most of all those lots now, the underbrush has been cut out, and a lot of times after a storm, they will bundle them. Well, they won't bundle them. They'll pile them up close to the path, and typically we'll just pick them up when we're out there doing our trash runs.
All right.
We don't advertise that, but
Now, do you guys control from that, just from the path down to the water? Or?
that's our working agreement with Public Works.
Okay, Public Works would be the other
We do
direction.
from the path to the lake, and they typically do from the path to that green space on that side.
Okay. Can you?
Now, there's some exceptions to that because we swap out some mowing that we mow. One cove we can mow, so we get in there and do it and don't ask them to. But then they mow some stuff on the front side of the lake for us. So
All right. Any major activities you're going to do to the lake there that you could share? Or?
well, we're gonna continue taking out some of the weeds. We've done Blue Mountain Cove, and we've done the behind the stage all the way to the bridge, and then we're hoping to do the main lake entry when you come in, and also the other cove. We've sprayed and killed some of the weeds, and it will turn the water willow brown, but it won't kill it. So we've been digging it out and hauling it off.
Okay. Now, have you found some secret way to kill all that stuff, or is this just?
We use Daquat is an aquatic herbicide that we use, and it will kill the other grass, and it will turn the water willow where it looks dead, but when you dig it up, everything under the water line is still green, so it would basically come back.
All right. All right. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it.
Mhm.
Thank you, Mr. Rayburn.
Thank you.
Next order of business is procedural motion. I'd entertain a motion to have all ordinances and resolutions read by title only. Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes. Yes. All opposed, no. Motion carries. Moving on to unfinished business, we have the third reading of ordinance 978, amending chapter 54 of the Maumelle City Code. Madam City Clerk, if you could read that by title only.
Be it enacted an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled ordinance number 978, an ordinance amending Chapter 54 of the Maumelle City Code to allow private residential rear access alleys when they do not connect to any public street.
So this is the third reading of Ordinance 978, dealing with the allowing private alleys in residential areas when those alleys are not connected to any public street.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve ordinance number 978.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve Ordinance 978. Is there any discussion on that matter? If not, Madam City Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Holt.
Yes.
Councilmember Vapurzian.
Yes.
Councilmember Tierney.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner.
Yes.
Councilmember Scott.
Yes.
Councilmember Saunders.
Yes.
Councilmember Mosley.
Yes.
Ordinance 978 is adopted. Next order of business is the third reading of Ordinance 979, accepting dedication of streets and drainage. Madam City Clerk, if you could read that by title only.
Be it enacted by the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 979, an ordinance accepting and confirming the dedication of certain streets and drainage in the development known as the M at White Oak Crossing upon the fulfillment of certain contingencies and for other purposes.
And-
To approve ordinance 979?
Second.
Just an overview, this is our standard dedication ordinance that goes into effect condition upon certain elements being met. But we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that? Madam City Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Mosley.
Yes.
Councilmember Saunders.
Yes.
Councilmember Scott.
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Councilmember Tierney.
Yes.
Councilmember Vapurzian. Councilmember Holt.
Yes.
Ordinance 979 is adopted. The next order of business is Ordinance 980, which is the third reading of Ordinance 980, establishing a capital improvement fund. Madam City Clerk, if you could please read that by title only.
Be it enacted an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 980, an ordinance establishing a capital improvement fund.
And this is, I've given an overview of this before, but it essentially just allows for us to set aside money in a particular year to be used at a later time. This doesn't count as an appropriation. So the easiest, I was trying to think of an example where we've actually done something similar to this. And the best I could come up with was the Pine Forest Connector Road, where we paid half of it one year and then half of it the next year. Well, actually what we did is we appropriated it half in 1 year, and then because we didn't spend it, we came in the next year and appropriated the whole thing. Had we had something like a capital improvement fund, it would have allowed us to roll that money out of the general fund, sort of earmark it in a capital improvement fund, and then do it again that second time so that we'd have sort of that continuity from year to year.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve ordinance number 980.
Second.
We have a motion and second to approve ordinance 980. Is there any discussion on that motion? If not, Madam City Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Holt.
Yes.
Councilmember Vapurzian.
Yes.
Councilmember Tierney.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Councilmember Gardner.
Yes.
Councilmember Scott.
Yes.
Councilmember Saunders.
Yes.
Councilmember Mosley.
Yes.
Ordinance 980 is adopted. The next order of business is the third reading of Ordinance 981, establishing a police and fire fund. Madam City Clerk Treasurer, if you could read that by title only.
Be it enacted an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Maumelle, County of Pulaski, State of Arkansas, an ordinance to be entitled Ordinance Number 981, an ordinance establishing a police and fire fund.
So this is a little bit different than the capital improvement fund. Y'all may recall last year there was a half-cent public safety tax put into place after being voted on at a election. That tax replaced the community service fee, essentially. The community service fee, we knew as the community service fee, but I think most folks saw it on their quarterly bill as the Police and Fire Fund. That those monies received by the city from this half-cent sales tax must be used for public safety purposes. During the time leading up to that special election, there was a lot of discussion about what that would be used for. I know that the police and fire departments, or at least the Fraternal Order Police and Firefighters Union, were contacted and ended up endorsing this issue. I think there's a lot of discussion about possibly using this for compensation of police and fire. There's a lot of different discussion, mostly focused on how this could benefit the police and fire departments. My goal in setting up a police and fire fund is to make sure that any taxes raised through that are used for police and fire department. And so that's an overview of what this will do and why I think it's a good idea. Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, we talked about it last week. It's kind of narrowing. It's ruling out street lightings, trail repairs, things like that, if we put it in that separate fund. And I think I think it ought to mirror exactly what the tax wording was. So I will be voting no, but I have no problem with setting up a capital improvement fund. But I just think it ought to mirror and have the option for all the things that were in the tax issue in that fund. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there any additional discussion on that issue? Councilmember Holt?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'll be very brief. I'm not going to have an exercise in futility because I know it's probably going to pass, but I do want to make a point that at the very bottom sentence, the city council may only budget the monies deposited in the police and fire fund for use by the police and fire department and solely for the operation and maintenance of the public safety facilities within the city, including equipment, personnel, and related expenses. I have never, ever failed to vote 100% for anything that pertained to fire and police. Anything that either chief has requested, I have voted yes without hesitation. I fail to see that anything in here that we can't do anyway without having this special fund. So I will be voting no because of that, but I support our fire and police safety department 100%, and I just want to make that point. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Holt. Is there any additional discussion? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adopt ordinance 981.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second adopting ordinance 981. Madam City Clerk, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Mosley,
No.
Councilmember Saunders.
Yes.
Councilmember Scott.
Yes.
Councilmember Gartner.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Councilmember Tierney.
Yes.
Councilmember Vapurzian.
Yes.
Councilmember Holt.
No.
Ordinance 981 is adopted. The next order of business is the brainstorming session. This was discussed by Councilmember Holt some time back. It was pulled off the agenda because we had quite a few other items of business. I think we were in hour 3 at that point. I'm not fully certain. And there was a motion to table it until those items were not before the council. And so here we are. Councilmember Holt, would you like to explain what you're hoping to accomplish?
I'll try to, Mr. Mayor. I confessed, first of all, I despise computers, so this afternoon at 2 o'clock I decided that I would go ahead and finally look at the agenda, and I discovered this was on here, and I like, wow, and I've got a little while to. So I've scribbled down a whole bunch of things. One thing that I would start with is if we were, the context of this, that if we were to have a special meeting, okay, and secondly, what would we start with? Well, what is our goal for the rest of the year? Or what's a goal for next year? I mean, just do we have own ideas that we could say, well, this would be a good goal or that'd be a good goal? or whatever. I remember in a discussion that we had some time ago when Councilman Saunders was talking about our roundabout here at Club Manor and Odom South. And it was part of the discussion for a few minutes was, well, should it be a budget item, or do you think we could go ahead and make a budget adjustment, or which way should we go? It's something to discuss. It's an important item to consider, but it's always difficult in a council meeting because we're eager to go ahead and bring it to a close. I would think that we have talked for about 12 years about our third entrance, and it's a critical thing. It's a major event for this city. I've not heard anything, but I would think that we might want to plan a major bash when this third entrance is open, and let's have an event to celebrate what we have done, the $15, $16, $17 million that we've spent. The mayor was here, the governor was here at the dedication. Plan something that really puts us on the map about that and bring the city to the forefront. I would think that maybe since the group that is Maumelle Forward group, and it was all about building houses and everything, and they're building houses, which is good. Perhaps we could persuade them to maybe contribute in some money to help us have a bash. But I would think it'd be sort of important. I thought maybe that, I have only missed one municipal league in the 4 years and 6 months that I've been here. And we go to the municipal league, and it costs us some money. It costs the city for us to go. And I confess to you folks, for me, it's not fun. I'm trying to perceive, by the time I get out of there, I am physically drained. But I thought maybe, Mr. Mayor, you remember that at the previous council meeting, our municipal league meeting, they had a rewards for city at our luncheon for all kinds of rewards. But one city got a reward for having the most city council members present. If we what could we do to get everybody to go to the council meeting one time? And then each of us go and find ideas that we've seen and we've heard and we've talked to, and we come back and we have a collection of things could we not use. They spend an awful lot of money on trying to provide us with information to come back to our cities. I don't think it's a joke to them, as you know. They really lay the situation out. So if we're not going to go and try to use it, but we come back, and no offense to anybody, but we never bring it up again. It's just, it's out in space. So I thought maybe that might be something that we could be using. Here in the council, we all struggle with these various ordinances and everything. We all have our own ideas, but if we don't get a chance to really know each other and work together, I thought it would be sort of fun if we were to have some kind of a get-together maybe at the park on the river, and have a little social event and with some hors d'oeuvres and just some drinks, and spend a couple of hours just visiting and whatever, and getting to know each other, and come back shoulder to shoulder. We're not talking about agenda. We're just there to sort of, hey, how you doing? Bring the spouses. We all get to know each other. It would seem to me that we would be able to develop a comprehensive. Why do we, at the risk of being misunderstood, and I think y'all would agree with us, we don't always agree with each other very much, and we don't talk about it very much, and very often we don't even say anything. So that's not a criticism, it's a critique that if we can do something a little bit more. The deal that Rachel did for us and having our interviews, she did a great job for it, and it was the first step, Mr. Mayor, of what you wanted to do to sort of let the city know who the city council is. What if we were to have a similar event, but we're all together in a talking mood? It'd have to be treated as though it was a meeting, but let the public know. But she's taking a film of that, and we're exchanging ideas back and forth about whatever we want to talk about, something funny or easy or whatever. But in other words, it could be used as a phase 2 to promote what the council does and what we're trying to think about for the city, and let them know collectively how we work with each other instead of just, separately. So it's just random ideas for us to come up with our own ideas. Mark Hayes has made it very blunt. City council members have no authority and that's fine. He didn't say that we shouldn't think about something that we could come up with that we could do for the city. We have to get it approved and whatever. But we should be a think tank, is what I'm trying to say. And to share that together. We're all caught up in the hustle and bustle of things to do, and this is not a, an enormous deal here. It was just an idea that I thought maybe we could, in the 4 years that I have been in 6 months, I've not seen us have the opportunity to share with each other and come up with something collectively. It's usually 8 different ideas, and somebody gets the vote and somebody doesn't. So that's my idea. If anybody would like to have anything while they think about it, good, bad, or indifferent, so be it.
Councilmember Saunders?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Holt, I'm not trying to rain on your parade, but there's one thing that you said that I don't think I would participate in. And that is a get-together, maybe bring the wives and have hors d'oeuvres. I can't tell you, I've sat in this chair a lot of years, and I can't tell you how many times I've heard uninformed citizens, residents in Maumelle, accuse us of being a good old boy network, okay? And I'm afraid that could be perceived that way, and I would do nothing to encourage that. Because we're not a good old boys network, and I don't want us perceived that way, So that's all I wanted to say.
Well, that's a point to be made. I'm not suggesting that this is not a format for laying out something. It's just, I'm just throwing out ideas, and I'm sort of sticking my neck out, and if it gets chopped off, so be it. I mean, it won't be the first
Well,
time.
I don't mean to chomp on your neck. I mean,
No, I understand what you're saying.
but that is an issue that concerns me because I've heard that said so many times. We're a good old boys network. We're not doing anything for the citizens, which is not true. So that's all I was saying.
I'm aware of the same thing, and I get accused of it, so.
Yeah.
Councilmember Mosley?
Yeah, I think what you're wanting to do is a good idea, and I'm not. Yeah, I'm kind of like Alderman Saunders. I don't know if a social event's the right way to go, but I think what we ought to do is just have a workshop here in the city council chambers and make it a public meeting, and everybody can bring something, ideas or wild ideas or whatever, and we can write them down on a chalkboard and visit about each one of them and see where we go. I mean, I'd like to bring up impact fees again and some stuff like that, and it's kind of hard to bring that up in a regular council meeting, and because I still think that's a viable option, and we actually have some resources now on staff here at the city that knows a lot about that. So anyway, it'd be great to visit about that, as well as, I guess a lot of times I think it might even be fun to figure out why somebody thinks the way they do about certain things, because we never really go into that, but see where people are coming from on certain issues. So I think it's a great idea.
I thought, we have our reports, like from Mr. Rayburn a while ago.
Yeah.
And they come and give us reports. I'd like to have, the mayor's not gonna like this, but an occasional, every 4 or 5 months or so, report updates on things like our red lights being coordinated. Where are we in our deal about our land out there, annexation? Where are we in so far as the contract for our city hall? No offense, I mean, everybody's busy, I understand, but it would be nice, I get asked about those things, and I'm sure most of y'all do. I don't have a clue, and they think, what are you doing down there? So, if we could once in a while have, at the mayor's discretion, an update on these reports. In all due respect to our previous mayor, that was not one of his things that he enjoyed doing. So, at any rate, just ideas like that, I mean, that we would sort of stay on top of what we're doing as we go along, and not having to make a big thing out of it.
If I could follow up with that. So first of all, I don't think having a brainstorming session is a bad idea. I agree with Councilmember Saunders. I don't like the idea of a social meeting so much as just a round table, no clicking buttons while you're waiting to go in order. Just share what you have to say, and it's a good way for for me, for the staff to get an idea of the things that y'all would like to see. That said, if there's one of my goals has been to update y'all at council meetings about different things that have gone on that has fallen by the wayside the last couple months, such as annexation or adaptive traffic lights, city hall renovations. If y'all want to know that stuff and I'm not proactively thinking about it, ask. I'll either look like a goofball and not know the answer, or I'll be able to update you with those things. And those things, while they can also be addressed at a brainstorming session, I don't think there's a need to wait for those. Hit Alderman's comments and ask away, you know. So with that said, I don't think the brainstorming session is a bad idea. I think it could be helpful. I'd be a little bit worried about, on one hand, having a really strict agenda that we were trying to follow, because that kind of breaks the whole principle. On the other hand, with no agenda and everyone just go, we could spend 40 minutes talking about, I don't know, the price of wheat in Tibet. So with that, Councilmember Tierney?
Well, one of the things that we'd have to try to figure out would be when to do something like this. I think like a Monday, alternate Monday when we are not meeting would be a good one. Of course, we wouldn't want to do it on a 4-week month where you have like 4 Mondays, but maybe a month where you had the 5 Mondays would probably be a good time to pick one. That way it, wouldn't be quite as intrusive on the schedule.
All right. Councilmember Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Holt. To your credit, one of the things that I remembered and appreciated the most about the Municipal League, it was in January. We were sitting in, I'm not sure if it was the awards luncheon or one of the others, but we were with the city council from, I was trying to think of the town that has the good watermelons, Cave City, and they had a large contingent there from their council. And at that point, I was only 3 or 4 weeks into being a council member, if that. And one of the things that I appreciated was the sense of camaraderie that they all had with each other. They really enjoyed being together and working as a team. And so I appreciate that aspect of all of us being on the same page with where we're trying to move Maumelle, forward to. And so anything that we can do to strengthen that's great. One of the things I mentioned in my first couple of weeks here was about how Robert's Rules of Order are always right, but sometimes they can be stifle discussion to some degree. And I'll always be an open book and tell anybody or anyone what I'm thinking about any of the ordinances or anything that we've got up for discussion. And I think that's incumbent upon all of us to, at that first reading of an ordinance or at that second reading, to spend that time discussing things back and forth so that we know kind of what questions there might be prior to that third reading and the ultimate vote. So I appreciate having discussion during the council meetings. That way we can all understand where we are on the same page. So I appreciate the effort. I would love for, I think Maumelle is in a really good spot for our future, but we have to plan and act on it to take advantage of some of the things that we've set forward. So I'm looking forward to the next 4 or 5, 10 years, and I would love to see this council be more involved in the mayor and pushing this city forward. So I appreciate that.
Councilmember Williams?
I'd love to see, I agree. I think it's a very good idea. And I'd love to see it be a more relaxed discussion. And like you said, Robert's Rules of Order, it stifles a lot of the discussion. And I'd like to see it more relaxed, people feeling a little bit more comfortable among us to say what we've got to say or feel like we need to say without, of course we don't agree on a lot of things. That's the way it is and that's the way it should be. And I appreciate that, but I'd like to know why more. I'd like to hear your opinions more, and I'd like for it to feel like a little bit more comfortable atmosphere, putting those opinions out there. And I think that would add to the camaraderie, and I think we would go to the Municipal League and feel comfortable with each other because, there's no hurt feelings or bad feelings or something going on in the back of your mind. You think somebody's thinking something else, and it sounds like high school, but I think it's just human nature. And when you become friends, you can disagree, and I think that would help a lot with that camaraderie that I think is missing sometimes.
Thank you, Councilmember Williams. Councilmember Holt?
I thought about not doing this, but I'm going to do it anyway. You know, I want to make an example that when I first came on the council, and my friend Timmons is sitting back there, and in all honesty, she knows, we've already talked about this, that we had a difficult time sort of connecting with each other. And it was just one of those things where we just didn't. And as time went on, during the election, that last series when I was outside holding signs and she was holding signs, and got to where we were talking back and forth to each other and well, this, that, and there, and got to know each other, just relaxed. We weren't in the council, all that kind of stuff. I got to meet her sister, family. My daughter came that last night with me standing out there. She got to meet my daughter. We got to know each other, and we really became, I think it's okay to say, we became close friends, and I enjoy my hug now, right? And don't you leave till I get it. So, but it does make a difference. And the thing that I enjoy most, I forgot to say that a while ago, about the municipal league is our luncheon. And the reason, the food's good, right? Hello. But at the same time, we're sitting around and we're having lunch and we're talking about trivial talk and this and that and the other. And it really is an experience of just shoulder to shoulder. We're not proving anything to anybody, right? I mean, we all enjoyed it. We were all here together. And so that makes a difference in that kind of setting where we just take off the mask and settle down and it's okay to visit with each other.
So it sounds like there's folks that would attend such a brainstorming session. So let's figure out a good time to do that. Do we want to try and talk about that
Are we talking
now?
about once a month, once a week, every night?
Well, my understanding is that I think we got reprimanded when we said brainstorming sessions, plural, and that Councilmember Holt was talking about a brainstorming session, singular. So it's my understanding singular and see where it goes from there. But
I agree, one, and then let's see how it goes, and then decide if we want to do it again ever.
so are we looking at something in July? Councilmember Scott?
Is it possible to have a little earlier? You know, I work at night, and it's really hard for me to miss work. I get points deducted for missing work. I mean, I get in trouble, and if I lose so many points, I lose my job. So
I can do earlier.
it would be nice if
We
we
could
could
even
just
do a
little-
lunch
little bit earlier.
if we wanted to do something like that. That would be kind of cool.
I know it's not.
Lunchtime
it's
would be
not-
great.
It's not good for
I
everybody.
could do it on a Monday, so, yeah.
Monday'd be great. I don't work on Mondays.
It would really be helpful to me.
We actually have a five Monday month here.
We could do it on the Monday between, like the second Monday of the
Hi.
month.
So and I'm pointing this out because there are at least several members on the Lions Club that meet on the second and fourth Mondays of the month. This month has 5 Mondays, and you guys can meet, but I'll be unavailable.
Let's do that day.
That's great. So
The 29th, you said the 29th doesn't work for you?
I'll be at CDI that week.
Well, if we had it on the fifth Monday, it wouldn't interfere with Lions Club.
He's not
Right,
available
that's
that
why
day.
we're
Right.
not here.
Oh,
When's the next
okay.
fifth week?
September 30th,
Yes, it's the 30th.
which is also Rosh Hashanah, for anyone curious.
And my dogs get their heartworm pills that day.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we do this? I will come. Are we looking for we're looking at a daytime thing?
Let's do a daytime.
Yeah,
Something different.
if we can.
Okay. Why don't we can either try and hash it out now, or I can shoot an email out, and I think we can communicate solely for purposes of determining a time. We'll see if we can't figure out what a good time would be for as many people as can make it. And it'll be recorded, so anyone who doesn't make it could entertain themselves.
I'll offer this as well. Yeah, any meeting that does not have an agenda or a goal can sometimes end with nothing accomplished.
Right.
So I love the idea of getting together. I really do, and I'll be there. I'm just saying if there's not like a set agenda.
We'll chase rabbits and, you know.
Yeah, you end up chasing rabbits for an hour and nothing comes of it.
So
So
when Mayor emails us, then we should give him 3 things that we'd like to discuss each, and that way,
Oh, there you go.
yeah,
Yeah,
we have a list of.
we hit on it and go. Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
yeah.
there may.
I just
be
didn't want
one
to come to a
thing.
meeting with nothing on the agenda because then we would
Correct. Yeah.
we talk about heartworm.
You accomplished the agenda.
24 agenda items. Gotcha.
Now,
I have a
don't,
feeling that many of them will overlap.
Yeah, some of them will be the same.
In 1 hour, right?
1 hour.
I think we might have to be careful about that kind of stuff on the internet because of FOIA. If
Sure,
we start
so-
discussing, then we're actually conducting a meeting
Well,
of
this is going to be a
sorts.
public meeting.
Yeah, this is a public meeting.
So, maybe we don't want to give 3 topics and all that stuff.
Well, we wouldn't give it to the group, we'd give it to the mayor.
So, yeah, just
You know,
stand by. We can talk about on email. You can give background information. You can, if we're communicating about a time, what you don't want is someone to say, "Hey, I'd love to talk about," like an informal vote where we're voting on what would be in the agenda would be not good. Or Bob says, "Hey, let's talk about item 1, 2, and 3," and then Lisa says, "Well, let's not talk about 1 because I hate it, and 2, we definitely should spend twice the time on." So you don't want those sort of discussions. But as far as just rock and roll, I'll stand by for an email on with a few different dates and time options.
Now, when I reply to you, would it be better
It's always better to just reply
not
and
reply
not
all,
reply
just
all.
reply to
There
you?
you go.
Okay.
Right.
That stops the back and forth in an email. Usually. Okay, did we have anything further on that agenda item? The brainstorming session. If not, we'll move on to the Education Task Force. A few weeks back, a month or 2 back, I brought up the idea of an Education Task Force. We know that Frank Scott Jr. in Little Rock has mentioned trying to get 1 school district south of the river. If that would happen, that might affect Pulaski County Special School District. We know Sherwood's looking into and has been through a nonprofit looking into what they would like with the school district. And what we don't have is anyone looking. We don't have that sort of independent third party assessing our current education system and what would happen if PCSSD broke up or there was splits and changes. So what I was asking the city council to do was to form an education task force. I think there's plenty of task forces that you want your average resident to be on because they provide a very unique insight. The education task force, those that I've seen that are more successful are comprised of educators, usually former educators, administrators. I've passed out a little list of a few folks that might do well on it. I haven't reached out to all of them about the hypothetical task force at this point in time. If we have former educators that wanted to be on that, I think we add anyone that, and they don't necessarily have to be an educator, but someone who's kept up with the school board, because it's a pretty complex situation with the litigation that's been going on since I was a wee child. And so this is just a list of some hypotheticals. If you know someone who'd be good on it, throw me their name. If y'all decide to approve a education task force. So what I was going to ask for is a motion forming an education task force.
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion on that matter? All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
All those opposed say no. So we will form a education task force. I'll get back with you with names. If you have someone that you think would be good, I know Councilmember Mosley put me in contact with someone. There's a former educator, or if there's any educators out there or folks that would be interested in serving on such a task force, send them to me, and we'll see if we can't start looking toward the future. With that concludes the unfinished business. We have no new business, so we'll move on to mayor's comments. Someone asked about what was going on with some things. We will be holding a public hearing on July 10th from 4 to 7 p.m. at Park on the River. It'll be a, stop-in public hearing, not dissimilar to the one we had at the Center on the Lake for the proposed roundabout. That road is being redesigned, and we're looking at a couple different things. One is we're trying to secure rights-of-way. We've secured the rights-of-way from one property owner, I say the big one, Mr. Bob Osborne, who those of you on the council for a while will know was a big outspoken opponent of the last design. And after back and forths with him and his attorneys and the whole 9 yards, we've got that right-of-way. And then we've got a lot of folks there that are very interested. They're all just worried about how they're going to get into their property and that stuff. So this is a great chance. We're inviting all of them to come out. Engineers will be there, take a look at the road, ask questions, sort of give their input before we get into the final stages of that. There's a section of that road that is in North Little Rock, right in front of the Osborne addition, which are the homes that are built. That gated area is in North Little Rock, so that when they built that, you'll see there's half road improvements, and that road's fine, except it'll be a little bit awkward with our current road in that the drainage, what we're trying to do is get North Little Rock to chip in to improve their side of the road with ours, which will be helpful for uniformity, but it'll be helpful for them for future drainage issues if we're all on the same page. And so our engineers, as well as me, have been in touch with their engineers and folks and trying to get that working there. Couple other things I wanted to note. I have, there's a question about annexation and where we stand on that. There's currently not much going on other than stuff in our heads. And by our heads, I guess I mean mine and my staff, about ways that we can approach that. Adaptive traffic lights is a good question, and we have put that out for bid. We've selected the contractor. We've got the state's approval to select the contractor. We actually have a pre-construction meeting set for this month. At that pre-construction meeting, they'll be given the issue notice to proceed on that, and that they will start on that process. I haven't brought it up because it's like the genie that I just don't know if it'll ever happen, but it looks like it will, and it'll be installed starting here soon. The next question was about City Hall renovations. Currently, we finished schematic design, which is where don't get too excited. Schematic design is where we've done the programming, the architects come in, they talk with all the departments, assess their needs, get the general idea. Schematic is when you start looking at what department should be located next to what department and in what part of the building. And so we have that pretty much laid out. And then I've got a meeting in 2 weeks to meet with them on their next design, which is actually starting to look in those areas as to where the offices will be and that sort of stuff. But we're still looking at, and the goal is an October construction start date for phase 1 of that process. So those are the 3 things that were brought up, and I'm sure if anyone else has other questions or wants to know about projects, I'll continue to work to do a better job to keep you informed, but don't wait on me. If you're curious, ask. So that concludes mayor's comments. Are there any council member comments? Whoa, that was a tie. Council member Mosley.
I saw in either today's paper or yesterday's, and I meant to bring it with me, but it was on the front page, and it was talking about internet sales. There's an act that passed here recently, and I can't remember what number it is, but supposedly internet sales are going to be taxed starting July 1st.
Starting today.
Starting today. And
It's
so,
July 1st.
And I guess we're going to get, the cities and the counties are going to share in about $11 million, they thought. So it doesn't sound like a huge amount, but.
They said 36 million is what they're anticipating.
Some of it was going to go to the state, but they were saying 11 million for the county and cities to share. So I don't know. Anyway, I just thought I'd ask to see if you heard anything about that. And,
I've heard that, yes, sir.
all right.
We don't have, so it's supposed to start being collected now. how that'll trickle out and how quick companies outside of the state of Arkansas will implement sales tax collection, how that'll work, I'm not familiar with. While I was one of the people that was not in favor of an internet sales tax, the fact of the matter is that if that tax is put into place, and it is, and if it's collected, it'll just mean additional revenue for the city. And so I assure you, we're looking at it to see if it's going to be that windfall or not. But
All right, thank you.
yep, Councilmember Gardner.
I'll piggyback to Mr. Mosley. And this morning I woke up to an email from a vendor that I usually buy stuff from out of New York. And they said, "Dear Chad, we know you purchased from us in the past. Just want to let you know, as of today, we have to charge you sales tax." So consumer Chad was, but city council Chad was, yes, more revenue for the city. But, that goes both ways. But yeah, companies are making their plans to start remitting that. So we'll see what happens, I guess, in 3 or 4 months with the collections. I wanted to go back to the capital improvement fund just real quickly, and I didn't want to address this during the vote because it didn't really matter at the time. But Mr. Mayor, how would you see us initially funding that, or would we budget for it during the budgeting process, or are we going to maybe put some seed money in there from our general fund? Did you have any thoughts about how you would like to see that go forward?
Yes, I don't know that you've just named the 2 ways that I would see that being addressed, and I'm not sure what the best way is. One way would be coming to the council with a resolution that says, hey, we anticipate this expenditure, let's rotate that from the general fund into the capital fund. The other way of doing that is just doing that through budgeting process. And I think the budget process should be included, but that doesn't necessarily address the short-term anticipated capital improvement projects, whether it's a roundabout here or there, or those things that we're expecting here pretty quick. I think we're coming up on another fire truck in a year or 2, if not next year, right? And so if it isn't next year and it's going to be the following year, then it might make sense for us to budget half of it this year and then half of it next year. So both is the answer to your question.
Well, I'm certainly in favor of adding it to the budgeting process and doing a little bit at a time, but I'm also in favor of initially putting some seed money in there where we're taking it out of the general fund. And while it would be, I guess, a budget resolution at that point to move it over, I think our citizens understand that we're being proactive here, and we're not just spending money willy-nilly. We're being proactive in planning for future purchases that we know we're going to have to make. That's why you prepare and budget for it. So I'm glad that passed, and I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do with it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Tierney?
I was just going to share some information on the out-of-state sales tax. It won't apply to all businesses, basically larger businesses. I think the threshold is 200 sales to an area, $200,000. If you hit either one of those, then it triggers the tax.
Thank you.
I'm doing my part.
Any additional council member comments? If not, I doubt the city attorney has any comments. Madam City Clerk Treasurer?
No comment.
And with that, just a reminder, Fourth Fest is coming up. Take a look at the flyer. Come out to the parade. Come out to the festivities and activities. And with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say yes.
Yes.
Did we get a second on that?
Second.
Yes.
We want to be more informal. So.
All those in favor say yes. Yes. All opposed? Okay. We're adjourned. Thank you. Just under an hour.
So every other Monday, I'm late.
Shortest one we've had lately.